and you're listening to information bits, pro tips, or educational content on the go. And this podcast series is here to discuss the latest advancements in different industries, share some cool corporate tips, the opportunities, and the strategies that'll help you become a pro professional.
In this empowering series, we've been delving deep into the world of personal growth and exploring various aspects that can help us become better versions of ourselves. Whether it's boosting our self confidence, mastering effective communication, or embracing mindfulness, we've covered a plethora of topics that contribute to our personal and professional development. Today, we are diving into a crucial skill that holds immense importance in the corporate world: diplomacy at the workplace. As we all know, the dynamics of the modern workplace can be complex and challenging, with various personalities, interests, and opinions colliding. Being diplomatic not only helps us navigate these waters gracefully, but also fosters a harmonious and productive work environment. Through this episode, we'll explore the art of diplomacy and its practical applications in the workplace, from handling conflicts tactfully to building strong relationships with colleagues and superiors. We'll uncover valuable insights and techniques that you can immediately put into practice. Whether you're an experienced professional or a fresh faced graduate stepping into the workforce, the wisdom shared in today's episode is bound to be invaluable in shaping your career growth. So sit back, relax, and get ready to enhance your diplomatic prowess in the workplace. Now, without further ado, let's unlock the secrets to being diplomatic at the workplace and unleash your true potential for success. Diplomacy is a powerful social skill that helps build healthy relationships. It resolves conflict and encourages people with differing views to work together. Diplomacy is the art of handling delicate social situations in a very sensitive way that respects other people's feelings. It is sometimes referred to as a tact. Now, there are certain key traits and behaviors of diplomatic people, and you will find them that they generally can have very, very difficult discussions without damaging the relationships they have with other people. They are generally calm in tense situations. They understand that humans aren't always rational, so they don't take other people's negative reactions personally. They also have the ability to pass on bad news and criticism in a very, very compassionate way. They are the ones that respect the fact that everyone has a very unique perspective, a unique opinion, and they try to understand other people's opinions. They do not try to win arguments, instead, they try to understand other people's perspective. They are very, very good at mediating between two or more people who don't see eye to eye on an issue. They are also problem solvers who try to find solutions that address everyone's needs. They are also polite to everyone, even those who can trigger or irritate or even anger them. Now, the next big question: how to be diplomatic? I'm going to give you a few tips that will help you handle sensitive situations in a very, very calm and graceful way that gives everyone involved a chance to feel heard and understood. The first and the foremost tip is to listen carefully to others. Now, you cannot be diplomatic unless you understand their position and feelings. To see things from their point of view, you first need to listen, which means you need to be an active listener, which again means you need to give people your undivided attention when they are speaking. You allow others to finish their sentences. You try to focus on what others are saying instead of just waiting for your turn to speak. By listening carefully, you may use verbal or non-verbal cues to show that you are paying attention. For example, you could say, "Okay, go on, I understand. Oh, is that what happened?" Or you can even simply nod your head when they make a key point. The next and the foremost important tip to be diplomatic is to ask questions to improve your understanding when you are listening. So even if you listen carefully to someone, you might not immediately understand what they are trying to tell you. It can help to ask questions to check that you've grasped whatever they are saying. Now, what are the kind of questions you could ask if you're unsure what someone else is meaning? You could ask questions like, I'm not quite sure what you mean. Could you tell me a bit more about it? Or could you expand a little bit more on the point you made about XYZ? Or can I check if I've understood you properly? I think you're saying that XYZ. So you try to rephrase the sentences that you have heard so that both of you are on the same page from time to time during the conversation. The third most important tip is try to empathize with others. Now, empathy involves imagining yourself in someone else's position and seeing things from their perspective. If you can empathize with someone, it may be easier to speak and behave diplomatically and deal a very, very delicate social situation. This is because when you understand other people's feelings, it makes it easier to choose both what to say and how to say it. The important step is write down key points in advance. It is not always possible to prepare for a tricky discussion in advance. However, if you have an opportunity to plan what you'd like to say, well, it's a good idea. I would suggest to make a bulleted list of everything you'd like to cover. A list will help you focus on key facts and issues, which can make it easier to have a clear, constructive conversation. Let's say, for example, you're having a meeting with an employee because they are persistently late to work. Now, your objective is to find out why the employee isn't turning up on time. So, you might write a certain list like this. You could ask him, you know what, I have been observing that you have been late 7 days out of the past 10 days. Perhaps you care for an explanation, or better, any certain reasons or any stuck ups that you've been having because you have been arriving late in the morning, something where we could help you with? Or how can we solve the problem so that you arrive on time? So, by referring to this list during the meeting, you may find it easier to stay on track and engage with your employee so that you can resolve the issue together. The idea is not to go back to the problem, the idea is to look for a solution together. The next most important tip to be diplomatic is to keep your emotions under control. Now, I know this is a very, very difficult tip, but if you're quick to lose your temper, the person you're speaking to might lose respect for you, which can make meaningful and diplomatic communication very, very difficult. So, if you're feeling angry, upset, or frustrated, try to calm yourself down first. So, what you can do is perhaps you can excuse yourself for 5 minutes. You could go back to your room or to your cabin, do some deep breathing exercises, or you could even ask yourself before the outburst, will this really matter in a week or maybe in a month or maybe a year from now on? So, this will help you to keep a sense of perspective. It will also help you to stay calm. The next important tip is to use softening language. Now, this is very, very tricky over here. Diplomatic people are honest, but they know how to soften criticism, rejection, and bad news by using gentle language. For example, instead of using negative adjectives, use a positive adjective and not a very, accusatory word. For example, instead of saying Prakash's note taking skills are very poor, instead you could say Prakash's note taking skills um, has got some room for improvement. You could even use certain examples like the workstation, or let's say this project seems to be like a complete mess. Instead of coming very curt, you could say, in my opinion, or perhaps in my observation, the project looks a little bit hazy to me right now. Would you care for further explanation? So you see how you are launching yourself softly with that particular language. You could also use certain hedging words. instead of going directly to a certain judgment. For example, instead of saying that's a terrible idea, you could say, I'm not sure whether we could go ahead with that idea. Try to use negative questions. For example, instead of saying, we need to re-evaluate this budget, perhaps you could reword it by asking, don't you think we should re-evaluate this budget? So here you are asking for an opinion. You are looking for a solution as a team. And try to use the word sorry, not very often, but it is important that it comes as part of your soft launch. The next tip that I would like to emphasize is to try and show your concern and not emphasize on other people's fault. Now, if you need to talk about what someone is doing wrong, avoid making generalized, sweeping statements such as, Rekha is too mean to our clients, or Rahul never tidies up, or he's always creating mess after every client meeting. Instead, try to focus on specific concerns, bring about facts and possible negative outcomes. Now, for example, let's say that a new employee has joined your team. Although they try hard and are pleasant to be around, it becomes very clear that they don't have the right skill set yet for the job. So, as a team leader, you need to decide to raise the issue with your manager. So if you said, Raj isn't very good at his job and I don't think he should have been hired, you'd put your manager on the defensive and potentially create an awkward atmosphere. Instead, being diplomatic could sound like, Raj is a really nice person. He's extremely positive to have around, but I'm quite worried about whether he understands what his new role involves. Now, this is a concern.